couple of things with this ecosystem real quick. So last week we saw, now there were some kind of, back and forth on this, and you were quick to kind of not just correct, but make sure that people understood what this tweet was about, Ewok. But people did their whole breaking news thing last week when Coinbase suddenly listed, keyword listed, not for sale, all of the Richard Hart tokens. So everything was up there. And I think we have seen that with Hex already before on there, that it was at least just like on Coinbase, but not actually listed for sale. But now we basically had the whole shebang, PulseX, everything was there. But it did list them for the notoriety anyway, and just the fact that Coinbase, maybe is helping break down those walls a little bit as far as even showing them on there. And it shows like the charts and their recent performance, just like with other tokens and stuff like that. This was on the same day that Metamask actually fixed the issue of showing the Pulse ecosystem balances in USD within the wallet rather than just the token balance. So apparently they got that corrected as well on Metamask. And this is right off the heels too. I was going to mention this a couple of weeks ago. We didn't ever really get to it, but we had a petition for PulseChain to be basically vote to be one of the automatic RPCs on MetaMask. So if you go to MetaMask and you look at like the different RPCs, different networks that you can add to your initial Ethereum mainnet, you've got all the stereotypes, Solana, Optimism, probably Arbitrum. There's like 15 or 20 on there. But PulseChain's not one of them. So there was a petition to get that added. To my knowledge, has not happened yet. I'm sure Twitter would be flooded with the news if it did. But you can see, like just by banging on the door as much as people in this community do, they do get stuff done. So interesting to see this from Coinbase. Again, obviously they're not for sale on there. And the small correction in MetaMask. But what do you think these couple of minor changes anyway could be indicative of, as far as the walls continuing to come down with this ecosystem, with real DeFi, Ewok, as we get here into the bull market?
So I don't know if many people know this, but they have been on Coinbase watch list for several months, actually.
Really?
I've had them. And, I said, DGen, Moonboy, and I are friends from high school, so we talk quite often as well. And we've had them on there. We've been watching the prices. Now, I think they just recently added PulseX, and I think that's what got the attention for all the breaking news. But Hex and PulseChain have been on there for quite some time. So either way, it's cool that, somebody noticed and said, oh, wow, look here, I found this or whatever. It's been like that, but it got attention on it, and it does go to show you what the community can do and how much noise they can make. Imagine if Coinbase were to actually decide to list one of those. I think if they list any of them, I think it would be PulseChain, just being the layer one, without any kind of sort of reputation preceding it. I think it could happen. So, that could be huge. As far as the MetaMask stuff, the last I saw, the PulseChain was in the lead of all the chains. I think somebody, and I kind of have an idea who it was, but they were voting on Chia, which, I'm not even really familiar with as a chain. I think it kind of came from some of those guys in the Tang Gang that created this Chia. But anyway, as the last I heard, it was blowing, everybody away pretty much as far as numbers. So will that happen? I think it could. Or you just use internet money and it's already there for you.
True.
That's your solution. So, and then what was the other one? Oh yeah. They finally fixed the US dollar amount on PulseChain side.
Right.
So that's really nice too, other than just saying, oh, I got here's a couple million tokens or whatever. No idea what they're worth, but that's how many I have. So that is a nice addition. The walls are coming down. You're seeing it. You're seeing the influencers. You're seeing these different things. I know, like him or not, BitBoy or Ben, whatever. One of his missions is to at least, even if he can't crack through CoinMarketCap, to get CoinGecko to list these things properly and give them a ranking where they deserve. I think he does have some sort of inside source there that he said he was going to be working on. So
Nice.
slowly, the walls will come down. And I think if CoinGecko does it, it would really put the heat on CoinMarketCap, just because then they would be the only one really, because Coin Paprika lists them properly.
True. They're like the only ones, right?
Right. They are the only ones that list the market cap correctly. The only bad thing about Paprika is they don't pull the volume numbers correctly. So it always shows that it's a very, very, very low volume, even when it's really not. So, but it does show market cap correctly on that one. So I've always kind of gave them their golf clap and said, way to go.
Yeah. Paprika doesn't really taste like anything, but they do run a good operation as far as a crypto platform, I think. So yeah, good stuff there. Let me ask you this, just fun question. Percentage chance that, I'll just say Coinbase. Well, no, let's say a major exchange, whatever you deem that to be, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, crypto.com, whatever. The chances one of them lists, I'll just say PulseChain, just the Pulse token, by the end of the bull market. What percentage chance would you put on that?
45%.
Okay, that was higher than I was going to go. I was going to say like 25%.
Well, when you say one of them, now if you say what's the list, what's the chance of Coinbase picking one of them up? It would be a little bit lower. But
yeah, agree.
But I think between crypto.com or even something like Gemini, one of those guys picking up PulseChain, I think it could happen. Richard's not ever really had very much nice to say about the Winklevi twins, but
right.
So that one may not be, but Kraken could list it, or something bigger could get a hold of it. We've never been a pay to play type community as far as those. Richard always said, I'm not giving you any kind of allocation for it. If you want them, you need to buy them. We're not a VC type deal here. So we'll see. If it takes off, I think the odds are more likely. And if not this cycle, I think you'll definitely see something next cycle. Just because of the reputation being around that long. At that point, you've definitely earned your stripes, where it would be the third cycle for Hex and second cycle for PulseChain. You're going to see a lot of things, but do we really want them? That's another conversation we could have. Do we want the centralized exchanges when then are you real DeFi anymore? Because you just throw all that stuff out the window, and you go down the way of Bitcoin, kind of veering off the path of what was crypto invented for in the first place, was to remove the middlemen. And it seems like we're always cheering on getting on a centralized exchange, but I don't know. I'm torn about it, because eventually it'll happen, but I'm just not overly a fan of those entities. I don't like it. I like the self-sovereignty. I like to be my own bank. I don't really want those, but in order to grow your community, to grow the people that have it, you're going to need easier on-ramps where you can basically press a button and have it bi-weekly for you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I have all the same conflicting feelings you do. I do think if it were just Pulse anyway, just Pulse gets a listing, I think that would be somewhat interesting, because it really, especially if it was one of those bigger exchanges, like, it's really going to open a lot of people, bring new eyes to it.
sure.
But then also that'd be a nice way of like, okay, now you've got it. And maybe it won't even be native Pulse. Maybe it'll be like WPLS, like the ETH version of it or something like that. So you may still even need to bridge it then after that. So that's the way a lot of these exchanges were last time around with like, I had some familiarity with Phantom last time around. Like, you weren't buying native Phantom on a lot of platforms. You were buying the ERC20 version of Phantom. And if you wanted to go over, Yeah, and if you wanted to go over that network, you did still have to bridge. So that's why I think it'd be interesting to just get maybe a Pulse listing. So it's like, okay, because we talk about like faucets and stuff like that for people to get over to the ecosystem. If you could get a small bag for yourself and then send it over there,
Sure.
I think that would be kind of cool. And then
Well, it
leave
makes
the
it
rest
easier
off.
for the exchange to list it too. If
Yeah.
they're having to sync with a bunch of different chains, it does make their life a little bit more difficult when something goes down or updates happen or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
To have a wrapped version of Ethereum, then you're not having to sync up another chain or have a node or a validator or anything like that. It does make their life a little easier. So I could
Yeah.
see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be pretty sweet.